Professor. I'm just wondering how you will respond to the charge that many of these crime against humanity trials are just show trials, which are politically driven, like in the Saddam Hussein case. How much of it was it really law, and how much of it was politics? Was it a foregone conclusion? The Americans, for example, have already decided the outcome long before the decision was made. Thank you.
Absolutely. I would denounce the Saddam proceedings, and did. I think that that was turned into an exercise not in justice, but in what Bacon calls wild justice, which is, of course, revenge. And it became, it didn't start off as an exercise in revenge. It was quite interesting. I was, in fact, one of the, in the first group of who trained the Iraqi judges, and they were extremely courageous people. And, but of course their judicial role had largely been in the past of deciding whether the defendant had stolen a carpet from the market. They'd never done any kind of international law before. We spent a couple of weeks with them at a hotel opposite Scotland Yard for security purposes. And they were very keen that they should sit with international judges. They wanted an international tribunal. No, the Americans said, you don't want to sit with international judges. The Iraqi people want to have an all-Iraq tribunal. They then wanted to sit in The Hague and not in Baghdad. Oh, no, you don't want to sit in The Hague, said the Americans. You want to... and then it got worse and worse. And what happened in the end was that the best judge was pressured to resign. He was the first presiding judge. The second judge made a slight joke which sort of suggested that Saddam might conceivably be innocent, and he was immediately removed by the parliament. And the tragedy was, of course, they never tried Saddam for the Anfal genocide. They tried him in the end for a very local thing where he had in fact been the victim of a conspiracy to kill him, and the Dujail killing, which was questionable at best. So sadly, yes, the Saddam proceedings had nothing to do in the end with international law, and I think can be said to be preordained. But I don't think that's the case with Taylor at all. There's a motion today to throw out all the charges against Charles Taylor. I think a number of them will. There was a decision the other day in the 6 cases that the one involving the president of Serbia, it was the brutal attacks on by the Serbian forces, and the president, I can't pronounce his name, Mutanilovic or something, was acquitted because he didn't have command responsibility. He was a figurehead. Milosevic and his generals were making all the decisions. 5 generals were convicted, given between 15 and 22 years, but Mutanilovic was acquitted, which shows, and there have been acquittals, a number of acquittals, so I don't think that the results of these cases are preordained. And the good thing, I mean the really good news, was that the other day Serbian courts actually started to convict a number of 13, actually, people who had laid waste to Vukovar and or appalling killings of patients in the Vukovar hospital. And what was so important about this was that it was Belgrade court, Belgrade judges giving enormously heavy sentences to Serbs, and they wouldn't have done that without, I think, the lead of the ICTY. So I think for all the debate about Bashir, and we've seen all sorts of allegations flying back and forth about Western justice or European justice from some African countries. The fact is that there is a great deal of evidence that 300,000 people were massacred, many of them raped by the Janjaweed. And the Janjaweed they found the pay slips, they're paid for by the Sudanese government. They've, you know, the horseback, devils on horseback would be, the areas would be softened up by Sudan army or Air Force bombing. The Sudanese army would follow the horseback riders in their army Toyotas and so forth. So I think that while the indictment of political figures inevitably causes people to think political trial, the evidence ruled on by judges before the trial can start ensures that there is a prima facie case.
Any other questions? Yes.
Hi, I would like to ask because currently we are at the doorstep of China, and then I would like to ask, would you like to give some of your opinions about human rights issues in China, especially, it's given, that the Tiananmen incident is actually coming up?
Yes, that is coming up in quite soon, isn't it? Sorry? Yeah, and it did make an important difference in many countries in Britain. It hastened the Bill of Rights in Britain and, of course, the Basic Law with its rights in Hong Kong.